Hey everybody, thanks for pressing play. In this video we're going to have a look around this car here. This is the new hybrid electric vehicle version of the Honda Jazz, or if you're watching in some other countries it might be your version of the Honda Fit. In this video we're going to have a look around this car here, which is the middle spec trim called an Elegance in Ireland, and we're going to have a look at the features on the outside of the car, and we're going to have a look at the features on the inside of the car, and then we're going to go for a drive in the car as well. And hopefully by the end of the video you'll have a better understanding of what's involved in this particular car and maybe some of the reasons why this might be your next car. If there's any information you want on the car, Brian's my name, just call, text, WhatsApp if there's any information you want on the car or information about anything in general when it comes to how the car works, or if you're watching on YouTube actually, if there's something that you want to know, just let me know in the comment section below. And if you think the video is useful, like and subscribe. Other than that, if you're in Ireland and you're thinking about buying one of these cars, best way to get me, like I was saying, 086 843 1945, call, text, WhatsApp, whatever suits. Anyway, let's start off by going for a drive in the car. And just before we start, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't say we are Fitzpatrick's Garage, a family-run business in operation for over 70 years. So let's start off by going for a drive in the car. We got the fob, which we press, which actually can turn on the lights as well. So it is keyless, get into the car, and then there's a push button start set up over on the right hand side here. There is a rake reach steering wheel, which means you can go up and down and in and out as well, and it's got two spokes, so it's actually a really unusual feeling steering wheel. It looks damn cool as well. Height adjustable driver seat as well, so it means you can get really comfortable. And then, like we were saying, there is a push button start over here. The LCD monitor in the centre, I'm going to go through that in much more detail later in the video. And over here then the Honda Connect unit, which is a newer version of that. I'm also going to go through that in better detail. There's really good visibility in this car. Looking around, it is so nice. It feels really bright, and we're going to see that when we compare it to other cars as well. In through here, it also tells me, it feels the weight of the driver's seat that I'm in it, so it got a red mark until I put on my safety belt, and then it turns green to say someone is here, but now they have their safety belt on. The gear shifter is logical and straightforward, and there's a push button handbrake which automatically releases when you drive away. So let's go for driving the car like we were saying. In through here, the LCD monitor, one thing I noticed on that straight away was when I started driving, it's really crystal clear compared to the CR-V. There's lovely graphics on it, and it's really clear and really easy to read. Anyway, what we're going to do is go for a drive. The thing I'm really noticing on this car is the amount of time it spends in the electric mode. So this engine is a 1.5 108 horsepower engine and a battery that is 0.86 kilowatt hours and also 2 electric motors, and that contributes to how much time the car spends in electric mode, and I believe me, it is a lot. Like we were saying, there's really excellent visibility. These A-pillars are super thin and the dash is quite low, and as you can see as we're driving along here, we are spending so much time. Look at this, we are spending time in full electric mode. This car is one of, I've never driven a car where it spends so much time as a full hybrid in electric mode. And I mean, when it got up to speeds of 60, 70 kilometers an hour, it was still pulling along in electric. Unfortunately, I haven't had the chance to go on a motorway because we still don't have a demonstrator, but I actually can't see why this car can't do circa 100 kilometers an hour and keep alternating between the modes. As you see, every time you pull out of a junction, it's doing its best to keep you in this electric mode, more so than any other car that I've driven lately. So I think I can now start to understand why they say it's so technologically advanced, because it spends an awful lot of time in the electric mode. And I apologise for keeping going on about it, but it's a pretty significant thing on a car like this. And for anyone that wants to maximise fuel efficiency, if you go back from the drive mode into the engine braking mode, that's going to start pulling charge as you're slowing up to a junction. I mean, if you're strategic in how you drive, you can actually help the car regenerate. You can get some really excellent fuel efficiency figures. But you know what? One thing about hybrid cars and automatic Jazzes in the past was they had the CVT gearbox, which is grand, but okay, fair enough, it wasn't the most exciting to drive. They have now introduced this fixed gear setup, so it simulates gears. So going from 0 up as far as 100 kilometers an hour, you will cover that in a very quick time, I think, for a car like this, which is 9.4 seconds. Because like we're saying, the engine is 108 horsepower, but it has 253 newton meters of torque, which is actually damn good. To put that into perspective, 180 horsepower Honda Civic has 240 newton meters of torque, which is actually less. And the fuel efficiency on the car is quoted at around 63 miles per gallon. That's about 4.5 even litres per 100 kilometres, and I think it's going to have a real good chance of ending up there. And just driving the car, I really have to say that fixed gear setup I enjoyed much more than the CVT that was out before. People used to complain the CVTs were noisy when you used to floor them, and yeah, they were. At least with this one, when it's going up and down through gears, it's more driving pleasure, and it actually is smoother, and they do promise that it is going to contribute to fuel efficiency as well. And for anyone that's curious, there is a top speed in the car of 174 kilometers per hour. So the thing about the Jazz is, and it's always been this way, it is a big car. So I'm going to compare it really quickly to the i20, which is a car we commonly sell at the garage. If you look at the size of the car, the Jazz is significantly higher in terms of the roofline, and overall in terms of proportions, it's actually quite a large car. Things like the boot, if you look at the boot, the car actually has a 298 litre boot, which is big considering that there's actually a hybrid battery underneath there as well. And it's nice and square, so you can actually really shove things in. In terms of the rear seating, let's just compare it really quickly. And the i20 is a brilliant car, don't get me wrong, it really is. But if you look at the headroom of the i20, I'm 6 foot, it's okay. And then looking around the car, it will feel a little bit darker than the Jazz. And the reason I'm saying that, this is not to do a hatchet job on the i20, but it's more just to demonstrate the i20 is a very, very good car. But really when you sit into the Jazz, you'll start to see this car is actually bigger than a lot of the other super minis, and I think it's unfair to actually pitch the car at the same. The headroom is significantly bigger, and when you're looking around the cabin, you should see it just actually is a lot brighter and lighter of a place to be. It feels more like an MPV, and that's why I'm saying I don't think it's fair to actually consider this car besides some things like the i20 and maybe Fiesta. This is actually a much bigger vehicle, and I think it needs to be pitched as a bigger vehicle. Even in the front of the car, if you look at the i20, brilliant dashboard, but when you really look at the visibility of the Jazz with its low dash and thin pillars overall, way more visibility. It just feels like a bigger car, because it is. As a result, I think actually the Jazz can slightly punch above its weight. So I'm going to compare it here to the Hyundai Kona, which technically is a small SUV. But when you actually look at the two cars, they're really not terribly dissimilar size-wise, and especially when it comes to the roofline. And one thing is, if you have a look at the boot in the Kona, it's a decent boot, but it does not usually accommodate golf clubs. I actually think the Jazz, it's much squarer and lower and more accessible. I think it's actually a more useful boot overall. In terms of getting into the back of the car, the Kona, again, sitting in the Kona, I mean, the Kona's a damn good car, really popular, and it sells really well for us. The headroom is okay. Again, like the i20, there's a significant more amount of headroom when you sit into the back of a Jazz. It just is a different car to sit in. In terms of the front, again, like we're saying, the Kona is a super popular car. It's one of the best-selling SUVs in Ireland, and the headroom's pretty okay. But again, you really notice the difference when you sit into the Jazz. There's significantly more room over your head, and it just feels like a bigger, airier cabin. Again, looking forward, the Kona has a pop-up dash, and the binnacle for the clocks are a little bit higher, where it is completely flat on the Jazz. And like what I was saying to you, compared to the i20, the visibility is just way better. I think it's an important point, because if you look at the Jazz price point, it'll seem expensive compared to the small super minis, but when you compare it to something like a Kona hybrid, it'll start to make a lot of sense. The seats fold down flat in the back, and you end up getting a 1203 litre space, and look how flat they actually go when they drop down. It is super flat, but they still retain the magic seats that were in the previous model, so we lift that up along here, and then we lock it in place. And that means then you get a tall mode, so if you've got something big and awkward that you want to transport, it's really useful. The rear door opens at a real right angle as well, so it's useful for getting in and out, and also for, you know, manoeuvring around child seats. There's electrics over through here, there is a child lock back through here, and then 3 head restraints, 3 3-point safety belts, ISOFIX points on either side in the back as well. And the material on the seats is lovely. It reminds me of an old style Japanese car, but I actually really like it. It's really comfortable to sit on, and the seats are also quite deep, which again make you feel like you've got a lot more headroom over your head when you're sitting down. This bottom section here is quite flat in through here as well, and again that helps with rear passenger space. There's kangaroo pockets in here, and there's a hard wearing leather on the rear of the seat, which again is going to be useful. In terms of getting into the front, the seats in the front are actually a wide body stabilizing seat is what they're called, so they're supposed to actually reduce driver fatigue, and again a very nice material on the inside as well. And there's lots of safety features like these anti-whiplash head restraints, but other things as well include a new airbag in the rear of the car to protect people's heads from the C-pillar in the rear as well as the door on the side. And there's also a new airbag up front, which is between the front passengers, and the idea is to stop the people in the front hitting off each other, and it actually reduces head injuries by 85% for the passengers and up to 98% for the driver. And that's not even to mention the normal standard side and curtain airbags that are already on the car. Up front then we got some storage in through here, and there's some storage down through there as well. There's more storage in the centre armrest in through here. There's also in front of that we got 2 drinks holders in through there, and then up front a little bit more storage, and further in then you can see there's 2 USB points and a 12 volt power outlet as well, and that's just in front of the gear shifter there too. Let's have a look at things from a point of view setup. So over through here then we have electrics for windows and mirrors, and we can fold in the mirrors using the button in through here. Down in the centre over here, the little corner, there's controls in here then for parking sensors front and rear. We have traction control on or off, And then after that, you've also got this button here, which controls all the safety systems on the car if you want a quick access, and height of the lights. The steering wheel then has some controls over here. So we have a speed limiter, which means we can set our speed. We also have on the cruise control function how far we want to stay behind the car in front. We have a lane keep function in through here, and then we can control whether we want a speed limiter or if we want cruise control. We can also speed up or slow down using these buttons here, the speed, once we're using the cruise control without having to use the accelerator. The left hand side of the steering wheel then, volume up and down for the radio, and this center section we're going to see in a little while is going to control the LCD, which means up there I can have various menus by juggling along through that cursor there. And then after that there's Bluetooth commands and just selecting music using the cursor keys here. Moving into the LCD screen, you've got a nice push button start in through here, but the LCD then, starting off, we have over here fuel gauge. On the left hand side it's telling you about the battery. You don't need to know, but it's useful to know. Over here, how do we know the car is moving? Because sometimes at the moment we're in electric mode, so this green light over here is to tell us that the car is started, which means it can be used. The headlights are completely automated on this car, so they come on at night, and this A is to tell us that we have an automatic function going at the moment, which means if we meet traffic, they'll dip themselves. This is where the speed signs will come in, so if we see a 60, 80 or 100 kilometer an hour zone, whatever it is, it comes in through here. This is to tell us that we have the lane keep assist function on. And then over here, we can also tell the car how far do we want to stay behind the car in front of us. This is to tell us that we have the cruise control function available to us if we want. And over here, there's an eco function, which I'll talk about in a while. And then this is to say that we have all the safety features activated. And the button on the right hand side we saw, that's a quick access button in through there if you want to control those the safety devices, which are things like lane keep assist and also the forward collision radar, which under 32 kilometers an hour, if you're about to impact an object, it'll actually try and stop you from hitting that object if you haven't touched the brake pedal. Over here then, we saw already that we can control the home screen using these buttons here, so let's have a look at the different functions. So first of all, we can go in, and this is the hybrid mode, which is telling us where the power is coming from and going to, that you saw when we were driving the car. After that then, we can tell us about fuel usage and how much fuel we got left. This is just the average kind of litres per 100 kilometres over the last few trips. Things like our average speed and how long the car's been running. Information about radio, information about Bluetooth, information about the compass and navigation, and speed limit warnings as well. Over on the left hand side, and I thought nighttime might be a nice time to do it because it lights up nicely. So over through here then, where do we want the air to blow from? This is the speed. So as you see, you've got these, and I actually much prefer these than the dab buttons that we had before. This is way easier to use. Big, twisty knob, which is so much easier to use than buttons, but you still have a digital display afterwards, and then warm and cold, and you can have it automated if you want the car to get you to the temperature you want. Rear windscreen demister, which also demists the wing mirrors, or the front windscreen demister is in through there as well, with an air conditioning function. And from a visibility point of view, it's located just along here underneath the radio. The radio then has really got tons of functionality, but one thing I have found, they've made it easier to use than the previous Honda Connect. Some people thought there was too many layers going on. So along here, it's nice and easy to use. So lots of different apps, and it makes some nice little noises actually, which I quite like as well. Phone information, FM, Bluetooth audio, smartphone connection, which is our Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. If we want to use Google Maps, there's an app center in through there, which I'm sure over time we're going to get more apps will be available. Things like your trip computer, general settings overall, vehicle settings. And it doesn't remind you of a computer game the way it's done. I think that's really cool. It's just nice. It looks classy and upmarket. And after that then, Wi-Fi hotspot, clock, messaging and a compass, and different changes we can have on the mode as well. Another cool thing as well I really like in this new car, listen to the indicators. Mightn't sound like, I don't know what it is, I just think they sound way nicer than the older version. And the other thing I really like is the noise. So this is to tell you you've got an object in front of you, and this is also to tell you you've got an object in front of you. Isn't it an unusual noise? It's just nice, it's different. I mean, how do you make the noise different about the parking sensors? But they've managed to do it, they've changed the tone, and I actually think it sounds nice. So like what we said, parking sensors are on the front and they're on the rear of the car as well. So they're side on the front, whereas they cover the whole rear of the vehicle. And again, they have that nice tone. I know it sounds so dumb, but actually it just sounds like a different high quality tone. Do you know what? I suppose all parking sensors, they sound so similar. It's nice when there's a different noise. I really love the lights on the car as well. There's lovely LED tail lights on the rear, and I really like that E-HEV badging as well, so people know what you're driving. There's a nice daytime running lamp on the front, which is LED, and there's also some nice LED headlights, and the indicators are all LED. So here you go. Just to summarise, if you're looking for a really nice car that's actually fuel efficient and something that is actually technologically advanced from a company that are doing hybrid for over 20 years, then this is definitely worth considering. And you got to remember, this is not just a normal small car. If you want to see the car or if you want more information, please do give me a call. Brian is my name, 086 843 1945. And if you think the video is useful and you've watched the whole lot of it, I appreciate your time, and please do like and subscribe. And thanks a million for taking time to watch.